Story 1. I am still so shaken by everything, so I apologize for my rambling. My husband Jake and I have been married for 3 years, and from the beginning, he was very close with his best friend's sister Cindy, 18 years old. Jake would often talk about her and tell how he had seen her grow up throughout the years. Cindy is always very bubbly and seems very fond of Jake as well. I remember when we were dating, she would ask to come along on our dates a lot. I never really said anything, as I liked spending time with her as well. She was like a little sister to me. When we announced our engagement, she asked Jake to better not forget her after becoming a married man and to still hang out with her. We got married, and I even made her my bridesmaid. Soon after, we moved to a different state and kind of lost contact. Recently, Jake's best friend came to stay with us for some time, and Cindy came along as well. The moment she saw us, the first thing she said was how attractive my husband had gotten, and that she was glad he didn't look like those boring married men. Throughout their stay, Cindy would just ignore my presence and be way too close with Jake. I told Jake that it was looking a bit inappropriate and to ask Cindy to tone it down. But he said that Cindy is just a bit childish, and is that way with everybody. On their last day, we decided to host a dinner party for everyone. During the party, I was with Jake when Cindy came and told me, "Oh, I need to steal your husband for a while." Before I could say something, she grabbed Jake's hand and took him to play games. I ignored it since it was their last day, but throughout the dinner, she was getting way too close with Jake and would just drag him away whenever I would be around while giggling at me. When everybody sat down for dinner, I sat beside Jake, and Cindy came last. She then said, "Oh, there is no seat," and then just went and sat on my husband's lap. Everybody was surprised, and Jake said laughingly, "Cindy, stop acting like a kid. You're not a kid anymore." Cindy started laughing, saying it was a joke, and got up and sat on another seat while giggling at me. I was so angry with the disrespect, and with the fact that Jake was so cool with it. But I didn't want to say anything bad, so I excused myself, took my car, and went out. About 1 hour later, Jake called me asking where I was. I told him I was going to my friend's house and I would come back after Cindy had left. I know what I did was terrible, but I was so angry at that time that if I had stayed there any longer, I would have probably started fighting or crying. I came back the next day, and Cindy and her family had left. Jake was very upset and said I took things too far. I started crying and told him how everything made me feel. He said it was horrible to think such things about Cindy and that she was like his sister. I told him that I was not doubting his intentions, but I was hurt by how disrespectful Cindy's behavior was, and he was enabling her by not saying anything. He started saying that I sounded ridiculous and couldn't even take a joke, referring to the sitting on lap incident. I said regardless, I don't want her in my house again. To top it off, Cindy sent a message saying that she was sorry about making me so insecure in myself, and that she would make sure to make me feel better, but I should not have left as it was pretty childish and kind of spoiled the mood. It felt so backhanded. I didn't reply to her. I just told my husband he needs to maintain a distance with Cindy. He asked if I was giving him an ultimatum. I asked if he would go as far as to disregard and disrespect my feelings for Cindy. This really rubbed my husband the wrong way, and he said since I have such unpleasant thoughts in my mind, and am giving him an ultimatum anyway, then he might as well leave because he cannot live with such an insecure person who has such unpleasant thoughts about him. He packed a bag and left for his mother's place. I have tried apologizing numerous times, telling him how sorry I am for everything, but he is ignoring my texts and calls. Later, Cindy's brother texted me and called me a bunch of names for thinking like that about his sister, saying Jake should just leave me and that an unpleasant person like me deserves to be alone. I could not stop crying after that. I don't know how to fix this. Is there a way to even come back? Was I so wrong to deserve this? I don't know anymore. People who are asking our ages. We are 25 years old, just months apart. Thank you all for responding and people who gave me good advice in personal messages. I couldn't read all the comments, but now I know my feelings are valid and boundaries were crossed by Cindy. During the dinner, there was Cindy, her brother Sean and his girlfriend, and their cousin Derek, also a good friend of my husband. So I called Derek and asked about the situation and what happened after I left. He was sympathetic and said that after I left, at first they thought I would come back after some time. However, things were really awkward. When I didn't come back, Sean's girlfriend told Cindy that she was so disrespectful for doing that. Derek and his boyfriend also said the same thing. Cindy started crying, saying they didn't have to corner her and attack her over a silly joke that she didn't know would get so out of hand. She then left the room while crying. Jake didn't know what to say, and everybody left early the next day. Derek also told me that Cindy has always had issues with boundaries. This all sounds so bizarre. I don't know what's going on with Cindy. Sean's girlfriend also texted me saying she was sorry for what happened. I told her how Sean's message was inappropriate, but she had no idea about the text, so I sent her a screenshot and asked her to tell Sean not to harass me again. She was very apologetic and said she would talk to him. Now my mother-in-law called and asked what was going on, as Jake didn't tell her and only said we had an argument. I was a bit hesitant to tell, but eventually told her everything. She was furious at my husband. She said they will be coming to have a talk. So yeah, I am just waiting for them to arrive, and I'm really nervous. I don't know if what I did was right or wrong, but we will see. As for people saying my husband is inappropriate or they are having an affair, I know this is furthest from the truth. I never questioned his intentions, but what hurt me was the lack of respect from Cindy towards me. Story 2. The cast. Me, one of my best friend's child, an upset customer, Walmart manager, and 2 deputy sheriffs. Being the year of the pandemic, when things were sort of getting back to normal at the beginning of the summer with retail stores, I went mountain biking with some friends on a wonderful late afternoon. It was a good workout as well. Just to let everyone know, I'm a female, 36, and in really great shape as a cyclist. I started to head home and stopped at a Walmart to pick up a few things to make dinner for my daughter and me. Then I happened to see one of my best friends and her child. We greeted each other, and I have always been like an aunt to her child. He was turning 4 years old, and she was buying him a bicycle for his birthday. This is right up my alley, and I said, "Great, let Auntie Kay help you out with it." Both were happy with it. We found a good 16-inch wheel starter bike, looked at helmets, and I even fitted the helmet to him. My best friend and I were chatting a bit. Her child was looking at other toys, and this is where I got the ahem. I turned and saw the upset customer in all of her glory. And yes, every bit of the stereotypical difficult customer look with her child. I said, "I'm sorry if I'm in your way off the shelves." Then, in not so nice of a tone, the upset customer says, "Now that you are done with her, you can help me with my child and bike for him." I replied, "Sorry, ma'am, I don't work here, and I was just helping my friend with her son." "Yes, you do. You are wearing cycling clothes," she insisted. "I just got finished with a ride about an hour ago, and I'm here to pick things up. I saw my friend and was just helping her. I'm sure one of the employees would be glad to help you, and I really don't work here," I explained. My friend chimed in, "She doesn't work here, lady. You need to stay out of this and be quiet." "I wasn't talking to you," the upset customer retorted. "Oh my goodness, let's go and get away from this unreasonable lady," my friend said. "What? How dare you call me that? I will have you fired," the upset customer exclaimed. I was trying to stay calm, and I repeated, "I don't work here. My friends always say that I am really scary when I'm mad. Being a tall woman, 5 feet 10 inches, and fit, I'm not a small woman." We tried to walk away, and the upset customer grabbed my arm. I pulled out of her grip and told her, "If you touch me again, I will have you arrested." I tried to walk away again, and she grabbed my cycling jersey. "You are going to help me, and I'm going to report you to your manager also." "Let go of my jersey, you troublemaker," I exclaimed. Then a Walmart manager came around the corner, and the upset customer screamed at him, "You need to fire your employee for not helping me." The manager replied, "Ma'am, she doesn't work here, and you need to let her go before I have you escorted out the door." "How dare you treat paying customers this way?" she yelled. I pulled my jersey from her grip, and she tried to slap me. I grabbed her wrist in mid-flight and said, "You have now done it, lady," and twisted her arm behind her. The upset customer was now yelling about assault and screaming about how badly I was hurting her arm as I pulled it up behind her back. I do have a lot of fighting training, judo and some mixed martial arts. My friend was recording it all on her phone and trying to keep her kid calm at the same time. I said to the manager, "Call the sheriff's department right now. I'm having her arrested." "Let me go. I will sue you all. You are all going to jail," the upset customer shouted. "I don't think so." I wrenched her arm up harder, her kid crying, and escorted her up to the front of the store as we waited for someone from the sheriff's department. 2 deputy sheriffs walked in, and I knew them both from having to use the sheriff's department a lot in my line of work. I let go, and she screamed, "Arrest her now for assaulting me." One deputy sheriff said, "Ma'am, you need to calm down right now." "No, she assaulted me," the upset customer insisted. My friend, the manager, and I just stood there and waited for the deputy sheriff to handle everything and answer anything that was asked of us. The second deputy sheriff asked, "Okay, what is going on here?" The upset customer yelled, "You know this person. Arrest her." The first deputy sheriff warned, "You need to be quiet, or I'm going to arrest you." I was feeling really bad for her child. He was crying as another Walmart employee tried to keep him calm. The upset customer kept screaming, and then they handcuffed her as I, the manager, and my friend talked to the second deputy sheriff about what happened. I didn't want to press charges because I didn't want to spend time in court with it all. I spend enough time in court with my line of work. She was banned from that Walmart. The manager apologized for everything and gave my friend and me $50 gift cards. I handed mine to my friend, which paid for the bike and helmet. I never got my items to make dinner, so I called my daughter and told her we were ordering out. I thought that would be the end of this and would never see that woman again. I was wrong. Add to the cast. Office manager. 2 weeks went by, and I was in my office at work. I had told everyone in the office about what happened at this Walmart. By the way, I own a home rental business, family-owned. I spent my whole life in this business and took over when my parents retired. It's a nice-sized business with 40-plus employees from office to maintenance. This one fine day, one of my office employees came back to the office with a couple. I was in my office with the door shut. My employee introduced them to my office manager Sao, and they were going to file and sign final paperwork on a home rental. My CEO buzzed me and asked if I could come out to meet the new renters and introduce myself to them. As I walked up front, the look of shock hit my face, and I couldn't believe it. It was the upset customer. She saw me. "You, don't tell me you work here." "Yes, I do work here," I said calmly. "Who is your manager? I'm going to have you fired." I saw her husband, this poor guy, now turning red from embarrassment, and then pointing to my office manager, saying, "She is the manager, talk to her." The upset customer yelled at my office manager, "You should fire this worthless person." The office manager replied, "I can't fire her. Only the owner of the company can fire her." "I want to speak to the owner," the upset customer demanded. The office manager pointed at me and said, "She is the owner." "Yes, you are in my place of business. I'm not going to rent a house to you, and I'm asking you to leave right now, never to come back, before I call the sheriff's department on you," I stated firmly. She left in a big hurry with her poor soul of a husband in tow. My sales employee was laughing about it and then joked, "I guess I don't get my rental bonus on my next check." I laughed and said I would pay him the bonus after having to deal with her. He was happy about that. Story 3. Some context. I'm part of an electronic sports team, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, for my school. My group of buddies and I proposed the electronic sports team to the school. It took many months, but we finally got it approved. Now, let's establish some characters. Entitled Mom, Entitled Kid, me, co-coach, John my friend, and Michael also my friend. These are not their real names. Some conversations might not be exact, though I asked my friends about the incident so I could get it as accurately as possible. At the beginning of the school year, our school announced the electronic sports team, which got a lot of kids to sign up. It was pretty big, with about 50 or so kids joining. About 12 kids joined the Smash team for the middle school team, which would be our main game. I practiced very hard just to get in, and all my work paid off, as I was the third best player. Our rankings were shown in the Discord. Michael got second, and John got first, so we all rejoiced when the rankings were announced. While we did practices at school, I met Entitled Kid. Now, Entitled Kid was nice and everything. He was just really annoying and cocky. He was the cliché rich, spoiled kid who hasn't worked a day in his life, and his mom was well known. He would complain and call everyone a spammer if he didn't win. He would always complain that I was third and that he should get the title of Whamu. To clarify, we are all big anime fans, so the top three got the titles of Whamu third, Esidisi second, and Cars first, the order of the Pillar Men. He would always get in my face and call me a coward when I didn't battle him for the 5th time and lost. I should also mention that I was in middle school and my friends were in high school, important for later. Near the end of the semester, co-coach had a meeting with us about the future of our team. During this, he announced that I would be moving up to the high school team. I was ecstatic during this while John and Michael high-fived me. Entitled Kid did not like this one bit. Entitled Kid said, "Why does he have it? He stinks." Co-coach replied, "Because I have seen him do better than most of the middle schoolers and even bested some of our players and got the title Whamu." Entitled Kid shouted, "Yeah, and he doesn't deserve it. It's not fair." Now at this point, Entitled Kid was bawling his eyes out, and co-coach ended our meeting. I told my mom about it, and she just laughed and congratulated me. Then came the next day. We had practice, and when I was about to walk into the room, I heard the classic ahem. I was startled, and I looked back and saw a skinny, pale woman I recognized but couldn't tell who it was. Entitled Mom asked, "Are you Flotus?" I replied, Yeah, I'm about to head into practice, but I have time. What do you need?" It was Entitled Kid's mom. Entitled Mom said, "I heard recently that you got into the high school team. Very impressive." I responded, Thank you." I was getting a bit annoyed because I could tell by the tone of her voice that this wasn't going to be easy. Entitled Mom continued, "You might have met my son, Entitled Kid. He really wants to join the high school team and play with the big kids. Would you please give up that chance to my boy?" I replied, "Ooh, no." Entitled Mom persisted. "Why no what? Not like you deserve it." I explained, "Ma'am, with all respect to your child, I don't think he's ready. I also earned this chance by practicing. Plus, I don't even think I have the power to do that." Entitled Mom said, "Ugh, fine. Do you know who I could talk to?" I replied, "Yeah, co-coach is inside, so you can come with me to discuss it." I was getting annoyed, but I tried to be as polite as possible, so Entitled Mom and I went inside, and I went to John and Michael to play a couple of games. They asked me what happened, and I explained. They laughed and told me that she was crazy. While we were playing, we listened in on the conversation. We were not listening for the beginning, and this is where we started listening. Entitled Mom asked, "But why can't he replace him?" Co-coach replied, "I already told you. We only give that to people who have shown us that they are above their level, and Entitled Kid has clearly not shown that." Now Entitled Kid was in the room at the time, still annoying all of us like he usually does. Entitled Kid heard the conversation and joined in. Entitled Kid said, "Yeah, co-coach, he stinks. He's too scared to face me." Now let me tell you how we got the titles for our group. John got first because he's the best and absolutely crazy in a good way. He will make sure you have endured lots of emotional pain before he finishes you. Michael got second because he could be losing by 2 stocks and make the greatest comeback. I got third because not only am I the worst in our group, but I also respect the type you earn by being nice and a good guy in general. Hearing him talk negatively about me and my friends for half a year finally just made me burst. I shouted, "If you think you're so good, come up here right now, you little troublemaker." Entitled Mom exclaimed, "What did you call him?" I continued, "You heard me? If you can beat me once in 3 rounds, or even take a single stock, I'll let you take my place." My friends were standing by me and basically said the same thing. The now cocky entitled kid said sure and connected his controller, while entitled Mom was furious. One thing I should let you know is that even though I'm all about respect, I play one of the dirtiest characters in Smash. Nest, baby. For people who play Smash, you know he's one of the worst characters to go up against. Also, for the people who don't play Smash, Ness has a move that is considered spammy and annoying, and I try to avoid using it too much. But in this battle, I made it rain down on this kid while he could barely get a hit. After the battle, Entitled Mom and Entitled Kid were yelling at me and co-coach. Entitled Kid even tried to get physical and did the worst thing he could have done. He swung a punch, missed, and hit a PC right on the glass. His knuckles were bloody and the PC shattered. This made co-coach not only ban Entitled Kid from joining electronic sports, but he also had to pay for the $3,000 Alienware PC. This made Entitled Mom angry, and she was about to yell and get physical, but we were all pushing her and Entitled Kid out the door. To say I was satisfied would be an understatement, though I was sad not to see Entitled Kid go up against Michael and John. Story 4. I've always had a complicated relationship with my dad. He was never abusive, just absent. A free spirit, you could say. Jazz musician by trade, always lost in his own world. Growing up, I barely felt his presence in our lives. When I turned 18, things took a turn for the worse. One morning, my mom received divorce papers out of the blue. No warning, no discussion, just a random postman delivering the news that would shatter our family. It turns out my dad had been cheating on my mom for years and had already filed for divorce without telling her. Mom was devastated, but we all tried to move on. Dad married one of the singers he'd been cheating with, and we reluctantly accepted it. Life went on, and a year ago, they had a baby boy, my little brother. During my visits to their house, I noticed something about my baby brother. He loved noise. Any toy he could get his hands on became an instrument of chaos. That's when a mischievous idea started forming in my mind. His first birthday was coming up, and I knew exactly what to get him. A marching drum. Perfect, right? The day of the party arrived, and from the moment I stepped through the door, it was absolute chaos. The baby was wailing, my dad's wife looked stressed out of her mind, and my dad was being his usual impractical self, not helping much at all. Me. Happy birthday, little bro. Dad's wife. Oh, thank you for coming. We're just a bit overwhelmed right now. Dad. Hey, kiddo. Glad you could make it. We all sat down to eat, but the baby was fussy the entire time. After the meal, I decided it was time to unveil my gift. Me. So, I got a little something for the birthday boy. I pulled out the marching drum, and I swear I could see the color drain from my dad and his wife's faces. They were probably trying to figure out how to politely tell me it was an inappropriate gift. But before they could say anything, the baby's godmother spoke up. Godmother. Oh, that's actually a great gift. He loves banging on things anyway. Dad's wife. Are you sure? It seems loud. Dad, looking uncertain, took the drum and started playing a simple beat. To everyone's surprise, my brother stopped crying immediately, completely captivated by the rhythm. Dad, well, would you look at that? Seeing this, my step-grandmother jumped in with her gift, a xylophone and some other percussion instruments. Step-grandmother, I thought these might be fun too. Before we knew it, everyone had grabbed an instrument, and we were having an impromptu jam session. My baby brother was loving every second of it, his earlier tantrum completely forgotten. Me. Looks like we've got a future musician on our hands. Dad's wife, looking more relaxed. I never would have guessed this would calm him down. Dad. Maybe he takes after his old man after all. As the party wound down and my brother drifted off to sleep, lulled by our makeshift orchestra, I couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. My plan for petty revenge had backfired in the most unexpected way, bringing us all together instead. Dad, thanks for coming, and for the gift. It really made the day special. Me? Yeah, no problem. I'm glad he liked it. As I left, I found myself already planning for Christmas. Maybe a tambourine would be a good addition to his growing collection, or perhaps a set of bongos. The possibilities were endless, and for once, I was looking forward to our next family gathering. Story 5. Backstory: this is another story about Sam and Murad. My manager, Sam, is extremely relaxed and an outstanding leader. His manager, Murad, is a stickler for the rules. I work as an infrastructure and configuration manager and happen to be one of the more expensive resources on the project for my domain. This story takes place in January 2023. The company was undergoing some restructuring, and most of our contracts included a last in, first out clause by default. When I joined in March 2022, I took a 10% pay cut to remove the last in, first out clause from my contract because I was seeking job stability. Although I was still earning more than I did in my previous job, it was only 20% more instead of 30%. As the infrastructure manager, I am responsible for maintaining all the product licenses the project uses. One of these product licenses requires a digital signature to function. Typically, such tasks require the use of service accounts, which are owned by users. When someone leaves the organization, their service accounts are automatically transferred to their manager. Unfortunately, service accounts cannot have digital signatures, so I had to use mine in this case. The product activation process involves using the corresponding digital signature certificate. Since I already had a digital signature certificate for tax purposes, I decided to reuse it instead of obtaining a separate one. In India, digital signature certificates are encrypted and require a one-time password from my mobile number every time they are used. This mobile number must be associated with my national ID, as that's how most encryption services work in India. Sam was on vacation, his first in 5 years, apart from taking a one-day leave in 2018 when he moved from India to Europe. He had never even taken a sick day. He recently got married, and for his honeymoon, he took a 2-month vacation to travel all over Europe with his new wife. In his absence, Murad was overseeing the project. Management asked Murad to cut 15% of his workforce. If you've read my previous posts, you would know that Murad was not pleased with me. So, the inevitable happened. I was called into a meeting with Murad and Human Resources. Murad asked me to voluntarily resign, or else I would be let go. This is a tactic companies in India often use, as getting fired is considered a much bigger deal than simply losing a job. It's a cultural thing. I suppose being fired carries a stigma that most people want to avoid. Human Resources usually tries to persuade people to resign voluntarily so that it doesn't become public knowledge that they were fired. This tactic often works well, as resigning saves the company from having to pay 3 months' salary, which they would owe if they were to lay off an employee. However, I knew better, so I refused his request. Murad was quite taken aback by this. Since I had called his bluff, he had to double down to show he meant business. By the end of the day, I received my termination email, with instructions on how to return company property I had. Here's the malicious compliance. I replied to the email, asking to schedule the return of the laptop promptly, as I needed to leave the city for a few days. Fake excuse. My objective was to have them pick up my laptop from my place and format it as soon as possible. This will be important later. By the end of the week, my laptop was picked up. I had already backed up a copy of my digital signature certificate, so there were no issues on my end. Fast forward to mid-February, and there was an issue with the product. A support ticket was raised, and the support team wanted to upgrade to the next version, as this was a known bug that had been resolved in the next version. The product was used once a week to create a weekly report, but no one really looked at it except for Sam, who was still on vacation. So, its absence wasn't likely to be noticed for at least a full month. The end-of-the-month report would bring it to upper management's attention. Now, support's standard operating procedure requires a license check. Hence, it required decryption of the existing license. Long story short, I received a call asking for the digital signature certificate and one-time password, and I rejected. Murad eventually was informed, who asked the support team to provide a new license. The product support team informed him that they couldn't provide a new license without the company purchasing one. The license cost for this product was $200,000. At this point, Murad decided that they could live without the report. He mostly handled the team's side of the project, so he wasn't really aware of the impact of this report. Sam returned from vacation at the end of February. By the first week of March, he noticed the missing weekly report and promptly called me. I informed him that Murad had fired me. Sam was quite perplexed, to say the least. Unlike Murad, he knew that the current license needed my digital signature certificate to work, so he asked if my digital signature certificate was available. I told him that my laptop had a copy, but it was taken. He checked the system, and sure enough, the laptop had been formatted. He asked me if there was any way to resolve the issue. I informed him that even if there were a way, I couldn't help him without being an employee. He asked me to wait for a few days. There is a quarterly meeting that takes place in the middle of every third month, attended by the chief executive officer and top brass. At the March meeting, everyone noticed the missing report. The chief executive officer asked why this important project was missing the report. Sam informed him there were about 90 people on the call that a key person had been let go, and the report couldn't be prepared without spending $200,000 on a new license. Now, I heard the recording of this call after rejoining, so I'll share the relevant conversation below. Chief Executive Officer, is this related to the layoff? Sam, yes. Chief Executive Officer, why wasn't this person's work backed up? Why was he on the last in, first out list if he was so key? Sam, he wasn't on the last in, first out list. Murad jumps in, he joined less than a year ago. He must be on that list. Chief Executive Officer, let's discuss this offline after the call. I don't know what transpired in the offline meeting, but 2 days later, I received a call from the head of Human Resources offering me my job back. I asked for the following: a 100% raise and promotion to next level. Out of last in, first out, obviously. Permanent work from home mentioned in contract. I keep the termination payout, since it will be counted as a new job in my profile. A joining bonus 20% of annual salary. I joined back at the third week of March. I received a brand new laptop within 30 minutes of joining, hand-delivered at my home by someone from information technology in my city. It took me 10 minutes to decrypt the license using my backed-up digital signature certificate, 30 minutes to upgrade the product to the next version. By the end of lunch, the Chief Executive Officer had the report in hand. My new promoted role offers a 60% increase in my medical insurance amount, a take-home company car, option to purchase company stock, and lots of other upgrades. I personally thanked Murad on my first week for the promotion and recognition by Chief Executive Officer in a team-wide call, the same 90 people, minus the top brass and Chief Executive Officer. Edit. Wow, this blew up. I have been reading all comments and answering as best I could. We'll clarify a few things below. We'll keep adding to it as more questions pile on. It is not at all common or accepted to use a personal digital signature certificate for such an important company asset. The product company was undergoing migration of their encryption scheme and was temporarily using the government-certified encryption scheme. Once their migration was completed, we were supposed to obtain a new updated license that had the new encryption for free. I was meaning to do that, but with my workload, simply didn't find the time. Basically, since it was working fine, it wasn't a priority. The company didn't rehire me with that seemingly enormous payout for the license dependency. Yes, that was a dependency, But had I been a poor worker worthy of getting fired, they would have paid the $200,000 instead. Sam wanted me back, hence I was hired back. I have a lot of proprietary knowledge and overall am a great resource. Murad is the brother of the wife of a senior board member. I still work with him on the project, as does Sam. It's one of those disadvantages of life that you accept and move on. He is displeased with anyone who isn't overly agreeable. Over time, I have done a lot for the project, and he now understands how valuable a resource I am. He has stopped trying to remove me from the team,